This time we'll open it up for questions. Are there any questions?
I'm trying to understand what you're saying. That the donation will be used for the purpose of helping Burmese residents understand our culture more, or what do you mean by how that donation will be used?
The donation is going to the Burmese Advocacy Center, and they will utilize that money in many of the programs they have, which include, among other things, providing some form of cultural orientation to their clients. So the onus is really on them to kind of explain how those programs do work.
Because I think there's a sense in the community that Ricker's employees are being asked to do diversity training, and I think there's a sense, I believe there's a sense among the citizens of what are the Burmese expected to do as well in order to get more in line with our culture. Understanding it's going to be difficult, they're just being exposed to our culture. But what is it that's going to be required, if anything, of the Burmese population to try to assimilate here in our community better?
Well, I mean, you're asking a broader picture as to what the city and all the residents of the city need to do to make sure all immigrants, not just the Burmese, feel acculturated into our community. So that's a much long-term, ongoing process. I think that it's everybody's obligation to engage in that. But specifically for the issue that we're here, the money, the donation is going to go so that the Burmese Advocacy Center can use that to be able to provide some form of training and maybe translation of material for their clients and constituents.
Well, if I could ask that same question in maybe a more narrow way, but maybe somebody from Ricker's could explain a little more detail exactly what happened to precipitate this, and then what are the Burmese doing, if anything, to try and correct that activity, which everybody, I think, acknowledges was inappropriate.
Well, let me address some of that, and if Ricos wants to address that, he can. I'm a little leery of the use of the word the Burmese, and I think we have used this incident with such a wide brush to say that Burmese. The Burmese population in this city is different. They have different groups, and most of them very highly sophisticated folks, who have come here and are working very hard to try to pursue the American dream. And many of them have escaped very harsh conditions from their home country to come here. So this incident was precipitated by a few people, not the Burmese population. And I think we need to be very clear and specific about that, not brush everybody from their standpoint. Now, it goes back to what I said earlier, that businesses have the right to be able to set certain rules and guidelines in their places of business. And if you have a handful of people who are coming in and breaking that decorum, you have every right to tell them not to participate in your business operations.
If this was not a cultural affair, if this
what
was
affair?
A cultural affair, if this was just a few people that may have done something that we don't know yet what they did, then why is a donation being made to the Burmese Advocacy Center?
Because we felt that the Burmese Advocacy Center is the one organization that has, over time, instituted some programs to make sure that the Burmese folks coming to this community, have access to employment, to housing, to make sure that, healthcare issues, they step up to the plate. So that's the one organization we were able to identify as the organization that has in place a coherent sense of programs. And we felt that they will be better suited to have the money to be able to continue those type of activities.
I guess what everybody's trying to ask here, if I may, is what happened? What exactly happened that would cause somebody, an employee at Ricker's, to put up a sign like that? Granted, it was a wrong act, it was not a right act, but what happened that motivated that? I think that's the one thing that hasn't been made public yet.
Well, and I really don't want to go into all of the details of what precipitated the act, because as far as the agreement is concerned, we felt that the issue is being resolved from our standpoint. But if you could hold that thought. Tony, do you want to address that?
Well, I will address it.
Would you mind
coming to the podium? I feel like that's the question the public wants to know the most. I mean, this is great, but
we had situations going on at the laundromat that perhaps were not all that different from what the patrons would do in their culture, but was alarming and concerning to our employees. And therefore, they responded with a sign that was clearly inappropriate. So, Mr. Ricker, his dad, have stepped up to the plate, acknowledged our response was inappropriate, and that's why we're here today.
But what specifically happened?
I'm not going to tell you specifically what happened.
Why won't you release that?
Why can't that be released? I don't understand.
Because we made an inappropriate response, and we're here to address what we did wrong.
But why won't you release what happened?
Because I don't think that's appropriate
But you
to
have
raise
to realize-
to the community at large. We're here to try and mend fences, not destroy fences.
Right.
Has anybody
We're here to
communicated to
continue
Burmese
to
people
do
not
that.
to do this again, whatever precipitated it? I think we're trying to ask that question
Correct.
too.
We believe
Has
that
that
has
been
occurred.
disseminated to them?
We believe so, yes.
I
Believe
think the-
so, or, I
Yes.
guess it'd be a question maybe for Gerald or the
Correct.
woman with the advocacy center.
Right, but, you know, we're here to acknowledge that we made a mistake, as Quinn indicated, and we're here to acknowledge our mistake, try and make it correct, make sure it doesn't happen again going forward, and work together as a community to build this community, as the mayor indicated, which has been done, by the way, by everyone standing behind me. Everyone standing behind me has attempted to move forward in a positive fashion, and that's how Rickers is going to continue.
I'd be curious if somebody would tackle the question of whether they believe this incident, though you guys feel comfortable with its resolution, whether it has caused any further wedges between this population that has moved into our community and those who've lived here all along. Is there any?
If you'll let me address that, first of all, I don't think a wedge has been driven. As a matter of fact, I think if more than ever before, we're bringing our community together. Let me explain something to you. We had a meeting shortly after this incident occurred. There were probably 25 or 30 of us up in the mayor's office discussing this very incident and what could be done to draw our community closer together. We recognized that there were three primary challenges that we had, not just for the Burmese, but for others who would come in as refugees, political refugees, those individuals who were being harmed in their own countries, who chose Fort Wayne as their new home. They have three primary challenges. One is to learn our language, because many of them don't speak English. They need to learn our language right away in order to begin to get employment, in order to send their kids to school and so on. Secondly, they had to learn how to navigate our community. They could not get around to gain employment. They could not get around to get their children to school. They could not get around to obtain health care because they didn't know how to navigate our transportation system. Thirdly, there was a lack of cultural education, both ways, both ways. We not only needed to learn about their culture and help educate ourselves. You were right earlier when you said, don't they need to learn ours? And you're absolutely right. But it's a two-way street. And that's what we're attempting to do with this donation, thanks to the Rickers family and other money that's coming forth from other foundations and from the city of Fort Wayne. We actually have a specialist who's actually working with the different nationalities in our community to educate. Well, I recently attended a Vietnamese New Year's Eve celebration. Last weekend, I was at a Burmese New Year's Eve celebration to educate myself. I don't understand either of those countries, but I'm trying to. So it is a matter of education, rather than going out and trying to challenge one another as to your faults or your weaknesses. Don't you think it's better to look for opportunities? I do.